So welcome everyone to the 2023 Alpha Art and BAS Oil and Mixed Media Salon titled Close to Home. My name is Jess Guziak, and today I am with Clifford Thompson, a Brooklyn-based artist and writer exhibiting with us this September. Thank you for being with me today, Clifford. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So just to get us started today, I'm wondering if you could tell us generally about the works that you have submitted today, if there's any theme, if there's anything specifically you'd like to share with us.
Sure. I mean, I see the paintings as being sort of representative of what I generally do, right? I'm a writer, as you said, and in many ways, my paintings are kind of extensions of my interests, you know? So I have interests in literature, obviously, also film, music, especially jazz. And as a writer, I find myself coming back to the theme of childhood often, right? So the paintings definitely reflect that, right? There are a couple that are specifically about kind of images based on my childhood. You know, the figures are, I never think of them as exactly being me, but they're certainly inspired by my life, right? And there's a painting called Trumpet and Drums, you know, which is I really just love the sound of a trumpet and drums playing together, or you know, and so I tried to capture that. There's one sort of outlier. It's called the Times. So you know, I like most people, I guess, I'm interested in what's going on politically now, and so it suggests some of that. So those are kind of the subjects I keep coming back to as a painter.
Yeah, your the Times painting, is that the one where it's the there's no person in the image, it's just on
Right,
the table?
right,
Yeah,
right. That's the one.
awesome.
Yeah.
So we touched on it a little bit already, and I really loved your artist statement where you were saying that your personal obsessions with literature, film, music, and then also hats, and whiskey. I thought that was
Right.
so fun. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess those are some of your motivations to create, but do you have any other personal motivations to create? Maybe anything specific to these art pieces you'd like to share?
Sure. I mean, you know, it's like I said, I'm interested in various things, but also, I mean, as a painter, what I'm trying to do is just create memorable images, you know, and images that might touch the viewer or make the viewer wonder exactly what's happening in the painting. You know, sometimes this may not be so true of this batch, but there are times when my work is mysterious to me, and I'll create a scenario that I'm not quite sure what's happening, or there, you know, different ways to interpret it. So um, so that's yeah, but I, you know, I'm very concerned with um, just how it looks, and like I said, creating a striking image that you want to keep looking at, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific pieces of art or film, literature, music you'd like to give a shout out to for your art?
Oh, well, like I said, I am a big jazz fan. Let's see, in terms of you know, I have in other paintings I've evoked figures like Coleman Hawkins, who is, you know, like the original famous big tenor saxophonist. Uh, Other musicians, including Dizzy Gillespie, you know, Roy Eldridge on trumpet, um, and it's funny, like, you know, I paint books a lot. They tend to the spines tend not to have anything on them, but they're just sort of generally evoke, you know, books and literature. Um, let's see, the I mean, in terms of other subjects, I as I said, I'm drawn to childhood, and I have a when I was a small boy, I had or so they tell me, I had a plastic cowboy that I called Two Gun Pete, right? So I don't actually remember this. I just remember, you know, my mother talking about how I just obsessed over this figure called Two Gun Pete. So I tried to recreate, just, you know, being on the floor with Pete. Well, and
Yeah.
there's, there's a figure of a parent kind of hanging out on the couch behind me and reading the paper, so yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cute. That reminds me when I was a kid, and of course I don't remember it either. I had a toy that it was like a little dinosaur, and I called it Two Blue Dinosaurs
Right.
because two of the exact same ones.
Right,
So,
right. Same
yeah,
idea. Yeah,
yeah, just naming things exactly what they are as a kid.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
talking about these works again, do you have any that you have like a particular attachment to? Like you said, the figures maybe aren't specifically you, but they remind you of your childhood, and
mhm.
maybe Two Gun Pete is in there with you as well.
Right.
Any particular attachment or maybe a favorite one? I know it's hard to pick, or anything you'd like to talk about more?
Well, yeah, there is one that I find just significant. It's called Boy Gazing at Public Housing. So it's a boy seen from the back, and he's looking out the window, and there's you can see in the distance a building with one light on, and it's meant to be a building in a housing project. And that is very autobiographical. When I was growing up, there was I lived in a small private house. Across the alley was Lincoln Heights, which was the housing project. And if you looked out the back door of our house, that's what you saw. And at a certain point, most of my friends lived there, and so I try to sort of capture something that I spent just idle moments doing, And it was interesting, like to me, years before I went to Lincoln Heights to this housing project, I would see it out the window, and I just wondered what happened back there. Who lived there? What happened there? And so, part of the painting is me trying to capture that period of just like wondering what's going on back there. This is years before I met some of the boys who lived there, and we became friends. But so it's just kind of attempting to capture my sense of wonder about that. And there's another painting that I submitted, which is called Early Saturday Morning, and it's a figure who is, a man in middle age, and he's gazing out the window, out his window, and he's got a book and a cup of coffee, and so it's sort of a sort of middle aged answer to that earlier work, right? And so I want the two to sort of echo each other. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Kind of like a a fold story of each other, coming
Right.
full
Exactly.
circle. Uh,
Exactly.
do
Exactly.
those friends ever come up in your paintings at all?
That's a good question. I've written about some of them. I've never painted them, but that could be a subject for a future painting.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's something to think about, actually.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
the memory of them there is there in spirit, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. I
Yeah.
think I think in the way I imagine it, one of the lights on the single light that's on in the building is probably one of my friends living there.
Oh, yeah. That is
Yeah,
cute. Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah.
the me- the energy of them is there either way.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so just for you as an artist, I'm wondering if you have a certain person or just a certain idea that is your greatest inspiration. I mean, we've touched on it a lot, but is there
Mhm.
anything specifically that you pinpoint that to?
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this in my artist statement or not, but you know, childhood is very. I keep coming back to childhood. It's very important for me. And two great influences when I was a boy were comic. Well, one great influence was comics, and different forms of comics. So I was a great fan of Peanuts. The Charlie Brown and the gang, and also Marvel Comics, right? The superhero comics. And I think, in thinking about it later, I decided that those two things together had really informed my sensibility as a painter, because um, the figures in Peanuts are so just simple, and I think that made a deep impression on me that has not gone away. And what I really responded to, and part of what I responded to in Marvel Comics, was the colors. There were such great colors. When I was 12, I got this book called Origins of Marvel Comics, right? And it contained reprints of the original, like the origin stories of the superheroes, and more so than the because regular comic books are printed on like newsprint, or they were back then. but these were printed on just like this sort of gleaming white paper, and the colors just popped off the page, and that made a great impression on me. So I feel like the simple forms of Peanuts and the kind of explosive color of Marvel Comics together sort of informed my visual sensibility. And I'm very much into color. I people have observed, oh, there's always red and blue, this kind of like bright red and blue in your paintings, and I think uh, that's partly where it comes from. Yellow too. I'm kind of a primary color guy, right? So I think in some ways, the influences on me as a boy have not gone away. I've learned a few things, I like to think, but the impulses are largely the same. So
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
That's a good thing to keep around, especially as an artist.
right,
And
right.
I was
Right.
even gonna say, when I think about the paintings that you submitted, I see the yellow and I also see the green. You have
Hmm.
like the little like army toys. Was that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
one of
yeah.
your
That's right.
paintings?
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I come back to that one a lot when I see it. So
Okay.
definitely
Yeah.
the primary colors.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
One thing I think I did one painting that had softer colors in it, and people were kind of shocked. They said, "Wow, what are you doing?"
are you okay? What
Yeah,
happened? What happened to
yeah.
your colors?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of tying us into the theme of our show here, which is your community, your home, where you're from. I'm wondering how your community influences you, maybe any like support systems that you have, people in your artist community. I noticed that a lot of people are from the Blue Mountain Gallery. Is that what it
Yes,
is?
yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're all friends, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, we are now. Yeah, I was very glad to be accepted into by the artists in Blue Mountain. It's a collective, and so that meant a lot to me, and it's been a great source of pride for me to be able to exhibit in the gallery there. In terms of community, again, I go back to childhood, and I was thinking of the painting Two Gun Pete. So you notice there's a boy playing on the floor with the plastic cowboys there, and in the back you see an adult figure on the couch reading a newspaper. And I think that where that comes from is that I was not an only child, but in some ways I may as well have been, because I had much older siblings. So what that meant was that by the time I was 5 or 6 years old and my siblings were off in or high school or college, I spent a lot of time kind of playing by myself. But at the same time, I always had the sense that I was being taken care of. There was this community. I lived on a street with several aunts and uncles, and which I didn't realize at the time was unusual, but it was. And there was just this sense of family around, and of being in the care of people who cared about you and knew the world, and so even as I was kind of doing my thing on my own, I had a sense of just safety and comfort and security and all the rest. So that that was a great thing for me, and I wish everybody could have that, right? So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'd say about that, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's great to have that feeling of community when you're a child, come through into your artwork and
Hmm.
always sticking with that feeling of childhood in art. I feel like the two kind of are synonymous at a certain point.
At a certain, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I
of
agree.
course.
I agree. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
that kind of concludes our questions for today. Is there any final pieces of some words you want to say about your work or anything you want to say to artists, anything like that? If not, it's
wow.
okay putting you on the spot.
Yeah. um, I would, just speaking as someone who for whom childhood comes up in writing and visual art too, I would say that it can be a great kind of untapped source of inspiration. If and try it, see what's there. See what comes to you. Maybe nothing, but maybe something, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
yeah. So I think that's all I got for you for
No,
the moment.
that's great. I put you on the spot. It's
Okay, that's
okay.
all right.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for talking with me today. I've really learned quite a bit about your work, and I'm very excited to see your works in person and on the virtual exhibit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.